What if what we fear the most is in fact the path to what we most need to find? A meeting with the void, and with ourselves. Nietzsche, Van Gogh, Tesla. Three names that revolutionized their fields and left immortal legacies. But beyond their brilliant creations, there is something that deeply connects them: the abyss. The abyss is not just a difficulty or an obstacle. It is a mysterious force that challenges the boundaries of human existence. For Nietzsche, the abyss was the void left by the absence of meaning, a confrontation with nihilism in a desperate search for new values. For Van Gogh, the abyss was internal, an emotional whirlwind where he wrestled with the limits of his own mind and sought refuge in his art. For Tesla, the abyss took the form of isolation, a disconnect between his revolutionary vision and a world often unable to keep up with him. Each of them faced this depth in their own way, and not all of them emerged unscathed. Why are so many brilliant minds drawn to this enigmatic force? Is the price of genius to live on the edge of the abyss? Or is the abyss where these extraordinary minds find what they seek most? Meaning, expression, or even transcendence? The answers to these questions lie at the heart of what it means to create, innovate, and challenge one's own limits. Throughout history, the abyss has been a universal symbol, a space between the known and the unknown, where certainties dissolve, forcing us to confront the depths of ourselves. It appears in philosophy as existential emptiness, in psychology as the shadows we fear to face, and in spirituality as the darkness that precedes enlightenment. The abyss is not just a place but a state, a boundary where the mind, soul, and reason are tested. But what happens when someone doesn't just approach the abyss but dives into it? That's what Nietzsche, Van Gogh, and Tesla did, each in their own way. Today, we'll explore what led them to face these depths, what they found there, and whether they managed to return. Some answers may surprise you, while others may challenge everything you think you know about genius. The abyss is one of humanity's most powerful and persistent metaphors. It appears in myths, philosophies, sacred texts, and works of art, always representing a boundary or a crossing. But what exactly is the abyss? It is a concept that defies simple explanations because it is not physical but a deeply symbolic experience. It is the space between the known and the unknown, the place where certainties waver, and we are forced to confront our vulnerabilities. In philosophy, the abyss challenges the meaning of existence. Nietzsche described it as the void that emerges when absolute truths lose their significance, a place where humanity must create new meanings to avoid being consumed by nihilism. Kierkegaard, on the other hand, saw the abyss as a call to a leap of faith, an invitation to transcend anguish and find purpose amid uncertainty. For both, the abyss was not just destruction, but also an opportunity for renewal. In psychology, Carl Jung brought the abyss into the realm of the human mind. He associated it with the shadow, the part of ourselves we repress or deny, but that still influences our choices and behavior. Facing the internal abyss means diving into the depths of the psyche, confronting fears, traumas, and hidden desires. Jung believed that this journey, though terrifying, was essential for self-knowledge and integration. The abyss also plays a central role in spirituality. In Christian mysticism, for example, it appears as the dark night of the soul, a period of desolation and disconnection from the divine that precedes enlightenment. It is the moment when the ego is undone, clearing the way for spiritual transformation. Other traditions, such as Buddhism, also see the abyss as part of the journey to liberation, a confrontation with existential emptiness that forces us to abandon illusions and attachments. Friedrich Nietzsche stands as one of the most challenging and visionary philosophers in history. His ideas dismantled the certainties that had upheld Western culture, exposing a void he called nihilism, the absence of meaning in a world where God is dead. For Nietzsche, the abyss was not merely a metaphor, it was the philosophical space where humanity had to confront the lack of purpose, and from there, construct new values. Nietzsche's existential abyss begins with his rejection of inherited truths. He believed that traditional foundations of morality, religion, and metaphysics were crumbling, and that humanity needed to face the consequence of this death of God, a world devoid of absolute anchors. In this emptiness, Nietzsche saw both danger and opportunity. The abyss was a test, a space where only the strongest, those capable of creating new meanings, could thrive. But confronting the abyss came at a high cost. Nietzsche did not merely write about nihilism, he lived it. In works such as Thus Spoke Zarathustra and Beyond Good and Evil, he explored the concept of the Übermensch, Overman or Superman, the individual who transcends nihilism by creating personal values in a world without guarantees. However, this journey isolated him. His thinking set him against the conventions of his time, alienating him from colleagues, friends, and even his own sanity. Nietzsche's famous phrase, "If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you," was not merely a philosophical reflection, it was a warning. The abyss is not passive, it reacts. To gaze deeply into it is to risk being consumed. Nietzsche experienced this literally. The final years of his life were marked by a mental breakdown that left him incapable of continuing his work. He spent his days in silence, cared for by his sister, far from the philosophy that once defined him. Nietzsche left us with a powerful lesson. The existential abyss can be both destructive and transformative. Facing it requires courage, but also caution. His story is a reminder that the void is not a neutral space. It challenges, tests, and sometimes consumes. Yet Nietzsche was not alone in this confrontation. While he faced the abyss of existential emptiness, another genius wrestled with a far more internal abyss, the shadows of his own mind. While Nietzsche grappled with the existential void of a world without certainties, Vincent van Gogh faced a different kind of abyss, one that resided within him. The Dutch painter endured a constant battle against his own emotions, mind, and solitude. Van Gogh's abyss was psychological, a mixture of emotional crises, isolation, and a desperate yearning to find beauty amidst chaos. Van Gogh is often remembered as a misunderstood genius. During his lifetime, he sold only one painting, and was largely ignored by critics and the public. Yet behind his vibrant brushstrokes and captivating compositions lay a mind in turmoil. Van Gogh used art as a refuge, a way to give shape to emotions he couldn't express otherwise. Works like The Starry Night and Wheatfield with Crows are visual examples of his attempt to organize his internal whirlwind. Carl Jung described the psychological abyss as the shadow, the part of ourselves we deny, but that subtly and powerfully shapes our behavior. For Van Gogh, this shadow seemed to dominate his life. He endured episodes of mental instability, including the infamous incident in which he cut off part of his ear after an argument with fellow painter Paul Gauguin. This moment marked his emotional fragility, but also revealed the depth of his internal struggle. Despite his pain, Van Gogh found in art a way to confront the abyss. He transformed his emotions into intense landscapes and lifelike portraits, as if each brushstroke were an attempt to connect with himself and the world. Yet art was not always enough to protect him. In his later years, his mental health deteriorated rapidly. He spent time in psychiatric hospitals, isolated from the world, and ended his life in a tragic act still debated today. Van Gogh left us with a profound lesson. Even in the depths of the abyss, it is possible to create something that transcends suffering. His art not only reflected his psychological state, but transformed it into something universal, capable of touching millions. Yet while he painted to illuminate the world, the weight of his own abyss proved too much to bear. The emotional turmoil that brought life to his work ultimately consumed him. Still, Van Gogh was not the only genius to seek refuge in creativity while facing the abyss. Nikola Tesla experienced a different kind of isolation, an abyss shaped not only by his mind, but also by his groundbreaking inventions. While Van Gogh plunged into the abyss of his emotions, Nikola Tesla faced a different kind of void, an isolation that grew at the intersection of his genius and his disconnect from the world around him. Tesla was a visionary who imagined a future so far ahead of his time that to many his ideas seemed incomprehensible. But the cost of his vision was a life marked by loneliness and a lack of understanding. Tesla possessed an extraordinary mind. He was responsible for inventions that shaped the modern world, such as alternating current and wireless transmission. Yet, despite his revolutionary contributions, he lived in an abyss of isolation. Obsessed with his mission, Tesla distanced himself from friends, avoided romantic relationships, and dedicated every moment of his life to an ideal, providing free and unlimited energy to humanity. This obsession, while inspiring, also consumed him. Tesla's isolation was not just social, it was also spiritual. He inhabited a space between the material and the transcendent, where his ideas often seemed closer to mystical dreams than practical inventions. Tesla believed that all humanity was interconnected and that energy could be the link between individuals and the cosmos. This almost spiritual view of science further distanced him from a society focused on profit and immediate goals. In his later years, Tesla became a recluse, living in cheap hotels and conversing with pigeons, which he treated as his only companions. He died nearly forgotten, while many of the fruits of his genius were exploited by others. His story is a reminder that the abyss of genius can be both a source of inspiration and a trap of disconnection. Tesla faced the abyss of isolation like few others. He left us a powerful lesson. Genius can illuminate the world, but also darken the life of its bearer. However, Tesla, Van Gogh, and Nietzsche shared something in common. Each found in the abyss not only challenges, but also opportunities to transform emptiness into legacy. What drives someone to face the abyss? Is it merely genius or something deeper? Why are extraordinary minds drawn to it, even knowing the risks? Perhaps the abyss is more than destruction. Perhaps it is a space of transformation, where the greatest creations are born. The abyss is both an invitation and a threat. It represents everything we do not know, everything we fear, and everything that challenges us to go beyond who we are. But why would anyone choose to face it? Why do some people, despite the risks, leap into the unknown? One answer lies in humanity's fascination with challenge. From the earliest myths, we are drawn to what we cannot comprehend. The abyss, with its emptiness and mystery, defies our survival instincts while igniting our curiosity. In philosophy, this idea is expressed as the desire to transcend the limits of what we know. At its core, the abyss is not merely the space between the known and the unknown. It is the engine that drives us to expand those boundaries. This impulse is particularly strong in creative and visionary minds. Genius, by definition, lives at the edge of what is possible. Nietzsche, Van Gogh, and Tesla were driven by an almost obsessive desire to explore those limits. For Nietzsche, this meant questioning all certainties and seeking new ways of thinking. Van Gogh dove into his deepest emotions to create beauty amid chaos. Tesla imagined technologies that seemed like dreams. They each faced the abyss not because they wanted to, but because they had to, because it was where their ideas and visions led them. But the abyss is not exclusive to geniuses. It is also a universal experience. In personal crises, many of us encounter moments when we are forced to confront our vulnerabilities. The concept of growth through pain is explored in various spiritual traditions, such as Christianity, where the dark night of the soul precedes enlightenment, or Buddhism, which sees suffering as part of the path to nirvana. Like Nietzsche, Van Gogh, and Tesla, we are all drawn to the abyss during times of crisis or change, though perhaps in less visible ways. Yet there is something transformative about this confrontation. The abyss is not just destruction, it is where great creations are born. In psychology, Carl Jung described the process of facing the shadow as essential to self-knowledge. On a collective level, history is full of examples of societies flourishing by transforming moments of crisis into periods of cultural renewal. On an individual level, it is by confronting our deepest fears that we discover the strength to reinvent ourselves. And what happens when the abyss moves beyond an individual experience and is reflected in what we create? In every work of art, in every story, the abyss takes shape, allowing us to face it differently, as if art, literature, and culture were mirrors that help us see what we might not otherwise confront alone. The abyss does not live only in the minds of those who face it directly. It also finds expression in the stories we tell, the works we create, and the symbols we leave behind. Art and literature serve as mirrors of the unfathomable, enabling us to see, through them, what we might lack the courage to face on our own. In literature, one of the most classic representations of the abyss is found in the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. Written in the 14th century, this epic poem narrates the author's journey through the three realms of the afterlife: hell, purgatory, and paradise. In his descent into hell, guided by the poet Virgil, Dante confronts humanity's sins and his own. The abyss, in this case, is both a physical place and a reflection of his soul seeking redemption. The journey is painful but necessary for him to find the light at the end of the path. In a different way, Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, written in the 19th century, portrays the abyss as internal and moral. The story follows Charles Marlowe, a sailor sent to the Congo to rescue a trader named Kurtz, who has isolated himself from civilization and succumbed to savagery. But the jungle, which seems to be the real challenge, is merely the backdrop. The true abyss lies in confronting the darkest aspects of human nature, revealing what happens when societal boundaries disappear. In painting, the abyss is translated into forms, colors, and movement. Vincent van Gogh is perhaps the most striking example. His frantic brushstrokes and vibrant colors transform his internal struggles into universal images. In The Starry Night, for instance, we see a night sky filled with swirling lights, as if the artist's emotional turbulence were mirrored in the cosmos. In Wheatfield with Crows, his final painting, the desolate landscape, a golden field beneath a somber sky, crossed by crows, seems to foretell the end. These paintings not only illustrate Van Gogh's psychological abyss, but also invite us to feel it. In modern literature, the abyss takes on an even more threatening form in the works of H.P. Lovecraft, an early 20th century writer who pioneered the genre of cosmic horror. Lovecraft imagined a vast and indifferent universe, populated by incomprehensible entities like Cthulhu, symbolizing the abyss between what we can understand and what lies beyond. For him, the abyss was not a place of redemption or learning. It was a brutal reminder of our insignificance in the cosmos. Yet the abyss is not limited to tragedy or terror. It can also be a tool for collective transformation. Movements like surrealism, which emerged in the early 20th century, drew inspiration from the abyss of the unconscious. Artists like Salvador Dalí explored dreams and surreal imagery to express what words could not. Similarly, Beethoven, one of history's greatest composers, translated his own abysses into music. His symphonies, particularly the Ninth Symphony, capture both anguish and spiritual elevation, demonstrating how confronting the abyss can lead to sublime creations. Through these expressions, the abyss ceases to be merely a place of pain and becomes a point of connection, something that unites us in our search for meaning. It reminds us that, even in the face of emptiness, we can create something that transcends our fragility. But in the end, what do these stories and works reveal about our own relationship with the abyss? Can we face it without falling? Nietzsche, Van Gogh, Tesla. Each face the abyss in their own way, confronting the unknown, challenging limits, and transforming their experiences into immortal legacies. But in the end, the abyss does not belong only to geniuses. It is a universal experience. At some point, we are all called to face it. The abyss can take many forms: a personal crisis, the loss of something significant, or even questioning the meaning of existence itself. It forces us to confront our deepest fears, question what we believe, and often leave behind everything we once knew. This confrontation is painful, but it is also necessary. Without it, there is no transformation. The stories of Nietzsche, Van Gogh, and Tesla show that the abyss is not only destructive, it is also a space of creation. It was in the void left by nihilism that Nietzsche found the strength to imagine the Übermensch and the eternal recurrence. It was in Van Gogh's emotional turmoil that his most vibrant works were born, and it was in Tesla's isolation that his visionary inventions emerged. But these stories also remind us that the abyss does not forgive. It tests our strength, our purpose, and sometimes consumes us. Yet the abyss is not just an individual challenge, it is a reflection of the human condition. Literature, art, and music show us that confronting the abyss is a shared journey. When Dante descends into hell, he is not only facing his own demons, he is exploring the sins and fragilities of all humanity. When Lovecraft presents his universe of cosmic horror, he invites us to accept our insignificance in the face of the infinite. In the end, what does the abyss truly teach us? It shows us that, although it is a space of pain and doubt, it is also where we find our true strength. Facing the abyss requires courage, not the courage of those who deny fear, but of those who accept it and step forward anyway. Perhaps the abyss is not a place of ruin, but of truth, a space where we are challenged to create meaning amid chaos, to find light in the darkness, and to rebuild where everything seemed lost. It reminds us that, even in emptiness, there is potential for something new, and that it is this confrontation with the unknown that makes us truly human. The abyss terrifies us because it reveals our fragility, but it is where we find the strength to transcend our own limits. And remember, knowledge is the path to true freedom. Count on me and follow the White Rabbit.